never set out to ruin a man's entire life. But the day I learned what Jeff did to Eileen, the woman who practically helped raise me, something inside me snapped. Not instantly, not loudly, more like a quiet click, somewhere deep in the place where anger hardens into purpose. Because when a man destroys a woman by weaponizing her childhood trauma, well, some of us refuse to let that stand. And Jeff had no idea that the person who would unravel his job, his marriage, his finances, and his reputation was already holding the key to his entire digital life. Before I take you into this story, into the investigation, the sleepless nights, and the revenge that spiraled far beyond anything I ever imagined, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Here, we do not just tell revenge stories. We give justice to the people who never got it. And this one is personal. I still remember the first time I saw Eileen cry. Not the small, quiet kind of crying people do when they are overwhelmed, but a complete emotional collapse. The kind where a person seems to fold inward, like their soul is collapsing under too much weight. She was not my aunt by blood, but she had been in my life since the beginning. My mom always said she was family by choice, and honestly, those were the best kinds of people. Eileen had this soft, gentle presence about her. Her voice sounded like warm tea, steady and soothing. But underneath that softness was a woman who had been fighting her whole life, fighting her narcissistic mother, fighting to feel worthy, fighting to feel loved. And for more than 25 years, she thought she had finally found safety with Jeff. That illusion shattered in one conversation. I did not witness that moment, but I felt its shockwave months later. I had moved back home for a semester, just long enough to take a legal residency before graduation. Eileen had recently been convinced to check into rehab after her drinking spiraled out of control. My schedule was flexible, so I offered to house sit for her. It felt strange being in her house at first. Everything still smelled like her vanilla lavender candles. And the living room had that same soft yellow glow I always associated with her. But the air had a heaviness to it, a leftover grief that clung to the walls. I did not know the whole story yet. My mom had only given me fragments over the phone. Jeff blindsided her. He refused counseling. He said cruel things about her, things her mother used to say. But it was not until my first visit to Eileen in rehab that I learned the full truth. She was sitting in a small lounge area, hands wrapped around a cup of peppermint tea. Her eyes were red, not from crying recently, but from crying constantly. We hugged, and for a moment, she held on to me like she was trying to remember what safety felt like. We sat on a worn-out couch, and when she started talking, the words poured out of her like a dam breaking. Jeff had come home one afternoon, completely calm, and told her he wanted a divorce. No fight, no discussion, no warning. I asked him what I did wrong. She whispered, staring down at her tea, and he just looked at me with this expression like he was disgusted. I clenched my jaw. He told me, she continued, voice trembling, that he was tired of being with a woman like me. And he said my mother was right about me. The breath left my chest. Her mother, the narcissist who spent Eileen's entire childhood calling her fat, stupid, unlovable, worthless. Jeff knew all of that. He knew what those words meant. He knew exactly where to stab. And he did it anyway. I did not say the thoughts burning through my skull. Not yet. But in that moment, something shifted inside me. Back at her house that evening, I sat alone on her couch with all the lights off. The soft hum of the refrigerator echoed faintly through the hall. Outside, a street lamp flickered like it could not decide whether to live or die. I replayed everything she told me. Jeff being fired from his job before the divorce. Jeff refusing to seek therapy or even talk about their marriage. Jeff leaving the state immediately afterward. None of it made sense. The math did not add up. And I hate when the math does not add up. There was a pattern here. I could feel it, like a puzzle I had stared at long enough to recognize the outline of something hidden. He was not fired. He chose unemployment. He moved somewhere with no family ties. He refused counseling because he did not want reconciliation. He used her trust fund money to support himself. And he weaponized her trauma to make her believe the divorce was her fault. Why? Why put so much effort into cruelty? Only one explanation made sense. He was hiding something. But suspicion is one thing. Proof is another. And at the time, I had neither. Still, a seed had been planted, and it would not take long for it to bloom into something far darker. A week later, Eileen called me from rehab and asked if I could find a box of Jeff's belongings, old photos, documents, personal items. Apparently, he wanted her to hold on to it until he settled into his new place. She said the details were in an email he sent her. I remember sitting at her desk, waking up the MacBook, and typing her password. The desktop slowly lit up, soft floral wallpaper, a cluster of icons in the corner. I opened the mail app to search for Jeff's message. At least, I thought I opened Eileen's email. Instead, I clicked the wrong icon, and Jeff's entire inbox popped up on the screen. For a moment, I just stared. My heart thumped once, hard in my chest. Why was Jeff's email account still logged in on Eileen's computer? How sloppy could a man be? The cursor hovered over the inbox. One click, and I would be looking at a man's private life. I knew the moral line here. I could feel it under my feet. But I also knew what he had done to Eileen, and I remembered her voice shaking as she said, "My mother was right about me." So I stepped over that line without hesitation. The inbox was unremarkable at first, old receipts, newsletters, work emails from years back. But then I had a realization. Jeff had barely used this email for years. Why would a man suddenly abandon an email he used for most of his adult life? I clicked through folders, receipts, taxes, random saved stuff. Then I found it, buried in a digital receipt folder, slightly out of place. A confirmation email for a dating site. My blood pressure spiked so hard I felt it in my eardrums. The timestamp? 3 years before the divorce. And tucked right below it was another email, a verification for a brand new email address. Jeff did not start using this email because he was reorganizing. He created it to hide something. I leaned back in Eileen's desk chair, heart hammering as possibilities raced through my mind. Had he started an affair 3 years ago? Before he quit his job? Before he blindsided Eileen? Was the job loss planned so he would not owe her anything? Had he been funneling money to someone else? I tried to log into the dating site using the forgot password link. No luck. The site did not recognize the old email, which meant he was not using this account anymore. He was using the new one, the one I did not have access to. Yet. But then I remembered something. Something small. Something stupid. Eileen had mentioned once that Jeff was not great with technology, and when I returned to the email app, I noticed a small icon I had not clicked yet. Notes. Jeff saved his passwords. In a notes file. On a shared computer. And suddenly, the universe felt like it was handing me a loaded weapon. Inside the notes app were passwords, random ones, useless ones, and then some very helpful ones. One for a dating profile. One for Netflix. One for Twitter. My heartbeat sprinted. I typed in the dating site password. It worked. His profile was still there. Still active. Still linked to the new email address. I clicked on messages and there she was. The mistress. And their messages made one thing abundantly clear. They had been seeing each other long before Jeff told Eileen he wanted a divorce. Long before he lost his job. Long before he destroyed her emotionally. In one message, the mistress even sent Jeff her personal email address. A rookie mistake. Because in the age of social media, an email address is enough to find almost anyone. Sure enough, I found her Facebook profile. Public photos. Recent pictures of her and Jeff. Happy. Smiling. Carefree. Breaking ground on a beautiful piece of land where their dream home would soon be built. And as I stared at their faces, these two people who built their happiness on the ruins of a woman I loved, I felt a cold calmness settle over me. This was not just cheating. This was premeditated destruction. He had drained Eileen emotionally. He had weaponized her trauma. He had lied about losing his job. He had moved states for a woman he had already built a life with. And I had everything I needed to prove it. What I did not know yet, though, what I could not have predicted, was that I had not even scratched the surface of Jeff's secrets. Because I was about to access the new email. The one he thought was untraceable. The one he thought no one would ever see. And when I did, I uncovered enough to destroy his entire life. But that part. That is just beginning. I did not open Jeff's new email account that first night. Not because I did not want to. I wanted to so badly my fingers practically twitched with the urge. But in revenge, real revenge, the first step is patience. If I logged in too soon, if I triggered a security alert, if Jeff got even the slightest hint someone was poking around, the door would slam shut. And I needed that door wide open. So I waited. For the next few days, I carried Eileen's keys, checked her mail, watered her plants, folded her cardigans on the dryer. Normal things. Mundane things. But internally, I was obsessed. Every quiet moment my mind drifted back to that MacBook sitting on her desk like a loaded weapon. I kept replaying the details I already had. Jeff did not lose his job. He quit. He lied. He built a whole new life with a woman who was not Eileen. He used Eileen's money to support himself the entire time. And Eileen? She was sitting in group therapy crying into tissues while Jeff built a luxury house with his mistress. Every time I thought about it, my hands curled into fists. But anger alone does not get justice. Anger without strategy just burns you from the inside. And deep down, beneath the swirling disgust and fury, was something heavier, something I did not want to admit. Guilt. Because I had not been there when Eileen needed someone most. I was buried in school, internships, my own life. I had not known how bad things had gotten. I had not known she was drinking every night. I had not known she was unraveling. And the thought that she had cried alone made something inside me twist. So yeah, maybe I was too emotionally invested. But that did not change the fact that Jeff deserved what was coming. The struggle was not just internal. There were practical problems. Legal problems. Ethical problems. I was in law school. I understood the consequences if I got caught. Unauthorized access to someone's digital accounts was not just messy, it was criminal. I remember lying awake at night, the glow of the streetlight bleeding between the blinds, thinking, what if he finds out? What if he traces the login back to Eileen's house? What if this ruins her recovery? Every fear tangled with every ounce of fury inside me. But then I would remember the way her voice shook when she talked about Jeff repeating her mother's abuse. How he looked her in the eye and told her she was not enough, not because he believed it, but because he wanted to break her. And the fear melted into cold determination. Some people crumble. Some people endure. And some people take the broken pieces and sharpen them into weapons. By the end of that week, my guilt, my anger, and my fear had fused into something steady and dangerous. It was time to go deeper. I returned to the MacBook one night after visiting Eileen in rehab. She had been improving slowly, painfully, but improving. Her counselor mentioned she was starting to open up more. She was participating in group sessions. She was making friends. Hope is a fragile thing. She was rebuilding. And I was not about to let Jeff's betrayal have the last word. I sat in her small home office. The lamp cast a warm circle of light across the desk. My pulse thumped in my ears as I clicked open the Notes app one more time. There it was. Jeff's list of passwords. Most were useless. Some were outdated. But the password for the dating site, something about it seemed familiar. People reuse passwords all the time. Especially men who never think they will be caught. So with my breath held and my hands steady, I opened the login page to his new email address. Typed in the address. Typed in the password. Clicked enter. 1 second. 2 seconds. Then, access granted. The screen flooded with hundreds of messages. I leaned back in my chair, a slow exhale leaving my chest. This was not just a door opening. This was the whole damn vault. The inbox was a masterpiece of stupidity, deception, and pure ego. But before diving into the filth, I skimmed from the bottom up, oldest to newest. That is how you build timelines. That is how you reconstruct a life. The very first email confirmed my suspicion. Jeff had not been fired. He quit voluntarily. There was an email from his admin wishing him luck and asking where to send his final paycheck. Another email referencing his goodbye luncheon. People do not get luncheons when they are fired. My jaw locked. While Eileen was begging him to talk, to work things out, to go to therapy, he was celebrating leaving his job to reinvent himself. I kept scrolling, and the hits just kept coming. There were emails from a boat mechanic discussing a leak Jeff had known about, deep in the engine compartment. The mechanic warned him about mold, structural rot, potential engine failure. He claimed he could not pinpoint the exact source. But in the inspection report Jeff forwarded to his boat buyer, not a single mention of mold. Not a word about a leak. My eyebrows lifted. Fraud. Clear, obvious fraud. I saved everything. Next came emails between Jeff and a boat broker, negotiations with potential buyers, records of titles transferring. All neat, organized, tucked into a folder Jeff probably thought no one would ever access. Wrong. Very wrong. Then the house construction emails. A sunroom dispute. Something about 3-season versus 4-season construction. Something about needing reinforcement for snow load. Vital little details. Important enough to note. Important enough to save. I saved them. Because in revenge, every detail matters. But then the tone of the inbox shifted. Straight-laced business emails gave way to something else. Something slimy. Something personal. There were emails from the mistress, sweet, flirty, nauseatingly affectionate. I miss you, babe. The house is coming along beautifully. Cannot wait to start our life together. There were scheduling emails tied to their shared calendar. There were shared documents about expenses, construction plans, holiday trips. They were building a future on land purchased suspiciously early, long before the divorce. And then, I found them. The flirty emails between Jeff and another woman. Not the mistress. A third player in this pathetic sideshow. The emails were not explicit, but they were intimate enough. Intimate enough to blow apart Jeff's new marriage if wielded correctly. But that was for later. For now, I screenshotted everything. Organized it. Backed it up on a flash drive. Backed it up again. Printed some of it just to be safe. I was not just collecting receipts. I was building a case file. A prosecution. A weapon. But despite the thrill of discovery, there was always a shadow of anxiety lurking in the corner of my mind. Every morning I woke up in Eileen's quiet house, sunlight filtering through lace curtains, and wondered, what if he notices unusual activity? What if the dating site sends an alert? What if his new email forces a password reset? One slip could destroy everything. And until I used the information, it meant nothing. Knowledge alone is useless. Action is what turns secrets into consequences. But acting too soon? That was just as dangerous. So I took my time. Days went by where I touched nothing, just lived life, visited Eileen, studied for classes, quietly simmered. Every night though, every time I walked past her home office, that MacBook seemed to call to me, like it knew it held the keys to justice. But something unexpected happened too. The more time I spent with this digital dissection of Jeff's life, the more I saw who he really was. Not just a cheater. Not just a liar. Not even just a manipulator. Jeff was a man who believed he was untouchable. A man who assumed his intelligence shielded him. A man too arrogant to cover his tracks. Too confident to imagine anyone like me might be watching. I saw it in the way he saved incriminating emails in neat folders. In the way he used the same password for multiple accounts. In the way he saved passwords on Eileen's computer. In the way he communicated with women like consequences did not exist. He thought he was smart. He was not. He thought he was in control. He was not. He thought he was safe. He was not. He thought no one would ever fight for Eileen. He was very, very wrong. But with every new discovery, something else grew inside me too. The weight of responsibility. This was not petty revenge anymore. It was not impulsive anger. It was not curiosity. This was an operation. A strategy. A mission I had chosen, knowing damn well I could ruin a man's life. The question was not whether I could do it. The question was whether I should. Was I becoming too much like him? Was I crossing lines I could not uncross? There were nights I lay in Eileen's guest room, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with myself. The house felt different at night, quiet, empty, haunted by memories she had not fully processed yet. She had loved Jeff. She had defended him. She had built 25 years of her life around him. And now she was fighting to rebuild herself from nothing. Was I helping her? Or was I feeding my own sense of righteousness? But then I would hear her voice again, trembling in the rehab lounge. He said my mother was right about me, and my doubts evaporated. Jeff had earned every ounce of what was coming. He did not just make a mistake. He orchestrated destruction. He did not just cheat. He dismantled her self-worth piece by piece, methodically. He did not just lie. He used her disability, her trust fund, her vulnerability to finance a future with someone else. He was not a victim. He was a predator. And predators do not deserve mercy. By the time I pieced together the full scope of Jeff's deception, I was not angry anymore. I was calm, focused, purposeful. Revenge, when done right, is almost meditative, because it requires discipline, patience, precision, and I had all three. But I promised myself one thing. I would not let this revenge be sloppy, or impulsive, or chaotic. Every move had to be calculated. Every action had to be airtight. Every strike had to hit exactly where Jeff was weakest. His assets, his marriage, his reputation, his career, his ego. All of it would crumble, piece by piece. And as I stood in that dimly lit home office one night, staring at the piles of evidence I had assembled, I realized something. This was not a struggle anymore. This was preparation. Struggle ends the moment you decide you are done being pushed around. And from that moment on, I was not struggling. I was hunting. And Jeff had no idea that the person dismantling his life was not his ex-wife, or a jealous coworker, or karma. It was me. Quiet, unseen, methodical. And I had only just begun. The moment everything truly shifted, the moment I crossed from investigator to executioner, started with a single, simple decision. I was not going to just expose Jeff. I was going to dismantle him. Slowly, quietly, precisely. Not with rage, not with impulse, but with strategy. Because revenge is best served not cold, but controlled. And when I finally sat down to map out my plan, the sun had long set outside Eileen's window, leaving only the soft hum of crickets and the distant whisper of cars on the road. The house was calm. I was not. I spread everything out in front of me. Printouts, screenshots, emails, property records, the mistress's social media posts, construction photos, inspection notes, boat repair messages, shared calendar events, flirtatious emails with another woman. It was like staring at a full wall of evidence in a detective thriller. Except I was not just solving the case. I was building a demolition blueprint. Every line of text, every financial record, every timestamp was a string I could tug to unravel Jeff's carefully manufactured new life. And I intended to pull every single one. The turning point. The turning point came when I received an email from Eileen, a short, hopeful message about her therapy progress. Today I remembered I am allowed to want happiness for myself. That sentence broke me open in a way I did not expect. Because Jeff did not just cheat. He stole decades of self-worth from a woman who had fought tooth and nail to survive her childhood. He looked at her vulnerability, her deepest scars, and pushed salt into them just to make his escape easier. And that deserves consequences. So I straightened my spine, took a deep breath, and started writing, old school, pen to paper, because sometimes the gravity of revenge demands something more tangible. At the top of the page I wrote, Project Justice. Underneath it, I drew 4 bullet points. 1 boat. 2 house. Free marriage. 4 career. These would be the 4 pillars of his collapse. Then beneath each, I wrote exactly how he made them fragile and exactly how I would make them shatter. The boat was the lowest hanging fruit. It was practically begging to be used against him. Jeff had hidden the leak, ignored mold warnings, withheld mechanical issues, presented a doctored inspection report, sold it through a broker who was also complicit. This was not just immoral. It was illegal. Real estate law, contract law, maritime property law, pick a field. It violated something. I clicked through the repairman's emails again, reading the statements about water intrusion, the warning about mold growth, the line about potential future engine rot. Then I compared it to Jeff's clean, polished inspection report, the one he had clearly chosen because it conveniently omitted everything that mattered. Slam dunk. I drafted an anonymous message to the boat buyers. Attached every incriminating file. Explained, succinctly and professionally, what Jeff had concealed. I was not cruel. I was not emotional. I was factual. And to make sure they took it seriously, I cited exactly which clauses of the state's boating property disclosure laws Jeff had violated. That email was the first real strike. Small, quiet, devastating. I hit send. And with that, the first domino teetered. The house was trickier. Jeff had not bought it alone, he and the mistress were co-owners now. That limited the angles I could attack directly. Destroying the asset was unlikely. But interfering with the progress? Interfering with the timeline? Interfering with the value? That was absolutely possible. Especially once I noticed the sunroom email string. Their contractor had warned them about the seasonal design. Jeff wanted a 4-season room. That required heavier construction, more insulation, more structural reinforcement. Had the contractor adjusted the designs? Maybe. Maybe not. But county inspectors do not like ambiguity. So I called the inspector's office. Politely. Anonymously. As a concerned neighbor. I asked if the sunroom additions had been approved. If the plans matched what was being built. If snow load requirements had been met. Someone should take a look, I said. And they did. What they found was not the sunroom. It was the workshop, a structure Jeff's contractor had attached to the garage without updating permits. A bathroom hooked to a septic system that could not support it. Work added after inspection. Illegal. Fixable but expensive. Time-consuming. Frustrating. And based on everything I knew about Jeff, humiliating. He was the kind of man who prided himself on control. On perfection. On being admired. Having inspectors come in and force him to tear down the workshop? That was the perfect kind of petty torturous inconvenience. Better yet, it would delay the entire construction project. And that delay would matter later. I did not know how much yet. But I was about to. The marriage, weaponized truth. The marriage was the most delicate pillar to attack, not because I felt bad, but because getting it wrong would tip Jeff off. The mistress was now the new wife. Their photos together, smiling at their construction site, holding hands with coffee cups, wearing sunglasses like they were in some midlife rom-com, were infuriating. She was not the primary villain. But she was not innocent either. She had knowingly stepped into something that was still a marriage. She had built a secret future with a man who was weaponizing someone else's trauma. She had funded her land purchase with money that may have come from Eileen's trust. I did not hate her, but she had built her life on stolen land, and she was married to a man who would absolutely cheat again. In fact, he already had. Just not with her this time. I scrolled through the emails between Jeff and the other woman, the co-worker, the assistant, the one who was not the mistress or the wife. They were innocent enough if you squinted. But the timestamps? The shared calendar overlaps? The tone? They were wrong. And the new wife knew her husband's patterns. She had been the other woman once. She had no reason to trust him, which meant she had every reason to believe me. But how to reveal it without making it look like a setup? I drafted a message from a burner account, one with no ties to anything, one I created deliberately for this purpose. I kept the tone concerned, vague enough to avoid red flags, specific enough to be undeniable. I do not know if you know me. You do not. But I have seen something I cannot ignore. Jeff has been getting close to someone he works with. They had dinner last week. A movie the week before. Both times were nights you were out of town. I checked because it bothered me. I am sorry to be the one to tell you, but I thought you should know. I included no attachments. Just truth. Because truth, when planted in paranoid soil, grows into certainty. I sent it. And immediately deleted the account. Her marriage began cracking within 24 hours. But the real implosion? That came later. And it was spectacular. The career, the one pillar I did not touch. Ironically, the pillar I struggled with most was Jeff's career. He worked for his new brother-in-law. Small company. Tight-knit staff. No HR department. No reporting hotline. No corporate oversight. He was insulated. Protected. And unless he did something blatantly illegal or publicly embarrassing, he was not going anywhere. This frustrated me. I had toppled 3 pillars. I could topple one more. But I could not. Not without risking discovery. So I waited. I watched. I hoped for an opening, but the opening never came. At least, not from me. Because fate has a wicked sense of humor, and sometimes karma outsources. For weeks afterward, I moved silently. I checked Eileen's mail. I kept her plants alive. I visited her in rehab, cheering as her face slowly regained color and her spirit resurfaced. I went to class. I studied. I planned. But I never told her. Not a word. Not because she would not approve, she might have, but because she deserved the freedom of never having touched the darkness. Her hands needed to stay clean. Mine did not. Everything was lined up. The lawsuits, the failed inspections, the demolished workshop, the delayed construction, the divorce, the firing. Jeff's life was already collapsing under the weight of his own deception. But the execution phase? That was where the precision came in. Where the personal touches, the ones that sting just enough to make a man paranoid for years, finally clicked into place. This was not about destruction anymore. The major destruction had already happened. This was about closure, finality, justice with a side of pettiness. And I admit, I savored this part. Not because I wanted to torture him. No, because Jeff was the type of man who believed he would always be in control. The kind who thought he was smarter than everyone in the room. The kind who thought consequences were for other people. I wanted him to feel small, to feel powerless, to feel what Eileen had felt. And I wanted him to know, without knowing how he knew, that someone had taken the power away from him. Someone he never saw coming. The final execution phase. Let us start with the box. The one he asked Eileen to hold on to. The box filled with his old photographs. His sentimental memories. Pieces of his life he thought she would protect. I found it in a corner of her storage room, labeled in his neat handwriting. For a moment, I just stared at it. A man's life in a cardboard box. Snapshots of birthdays, vacations, moments he cherished. It should have felt dramatic. Symbolic. It did not. It felt accurate. So I took it outside to the bin, lifted the lid, paused only long enough to take a breath, and dropped it in. Thud. No ceremony. No hesitation. Just gravity. When Eileen later asked where it went, I simply said, I think it got lost during the move. She did not question it. She did not care. And honestly, neither did I. He did not deserve to keep the past he lied his way out of. Then came the digital devastation. This part did not hurt him financially, did not cause legal trouble, did not ruin relationships. It was not meant to. It was psychological warfare. I started with something simple. One spam hell. I signed both of Jeff's email addresses up for every newsletter, spam site, junk subscription, terrible promotional list I could find. Every enter your email to spin the wheel pop-up, Jeff's email. Every free coupon for 10% off something you do not need, Jeff's email. Every political newsletter from both sides of the aisle, Jeff's email. Every adult content mailing list from the depths of the internet? Oh yes, Jeff's email. His inbox was now a war zone of useless noise. And the best part? You cannot unsubscribe from everything. The deluge is endless. He would spend years trying to clean that up. 2. The Netflix chaos. This one was petty. Beautifully, poetically petty. Jeff had a very curated Netflix watch list. He was the kind of man who prided himself on efficiency and organization. So I deleted it. Every show, every movie, every documentary he saved for later. Gone. Then I replaced everything with kids shows, obscure documentaries about topics no one should be that interested in, niche videos, stand-up specials from comedians he would hate, and of course romantic dramas about infidelity. If he ever looked at that watch list in confusion, good. Let him wonder. Let him feel the paranoia. Let him feel the lack of control. 3. The Twitter inferno. This was my favorite. He was already divorcing, already unemployed, already losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits and construction penalties. But his Twitter? That was his ego spot. A place where he followed business moguls, entrepreneurs, lifestyle gurus, people who validated his fantasy of being the smartest man in the room. So I logged in. And I broke it. I liked porn. Retweeted porn. followed porn accounts, posted things that would make a pastor faint. Nothing illegal, nothing harmful, nothing targeted at anyone, just absolutely humiliating smut. And then, I unfollowed every account he cared about. Entrepreneurs? Gone. Motivational speakers? Deleted. Industry leaders? Unfollowed. All replaced with an unholy army of adult performers. When he finally tried to log in weeks later, imagine the shock. His timeline was filth. His likes were filth. His follows were filth. And none of it was subtle. It was the digital equivalent of spray painting. I am a clown. On his front door. Poetic. Damning. Deeply satisfying. And then, silence. I did not contact him. Did not send a message. Did not follow up. My part was done. Like a ghost, I disappeared. And Jeff spiraled. According to the friend who updated Eileen, he had been telling people he had been targeted, that someone hacked him, that someone ruined him. But the thing about men like Jeff, they think they are too smart to be caught, too careful to leave tracks, too important for anyone to care enough to take them down. So when the world collapses around them, they do not know where to look for the source, which was perfect. Because the entire time his boat buyers were suing him, the inspectors were ripping apart his workshop. His wife was serving him divorce papers. His boss/brother-in-law was firing him. And his Twitter was turning into a porn museum. I was across town making sure Eileen recovered, helping her remember how to live, reminding her that she mattered. I visited her in rehab. I took her out for tea when she graduated the program. I helped her furnish her new apartment. I helped her rebuild her routines. She never knew what I had done. And I never told her. Because real revenge is not about credit. It is about balance. And for the first time in decades, Eileen was finally balanced. Jeff was not. He never would be again. The fallout from my actions and his lasted years. The boat lawsuit. Jeff spent a fortune fighting it. Lost anyway. Paid damages. Lost more money in legal fees. The house. Construction delays caused by the workshop violation meant that when the divorce hit, the house was not ready. They were forced to sell unfinished. At a massive loss. The career. His brother-in-law fired him not for incompetence, but for dishonor. Which is worse. Much worse. The marriage. His new wife threw him out. Immediately. No nigogstiastin. No grace. No reconciliastin. She never trusted him, the mutual friend told Eileen. Turns out she was right. The reputation. Family friends distanced themselves. His new community whispered. People talk. They always talk. The finances. Between the lawsuits, lost job and house fiasco, he took serious financial damage. The psychology. This is speculative but based on everything our mutual friend shared, Jeff became paranoid. Withdrawn. Angry. Suspicious of everyone around him. Good. Let him feel the instability he inflicted on Eileen. Let him wonder who came for him. Let him fear a shadow that will never appear. Because the monster in his life, the one he imagines behind every misfortune, does not exist anymore. My job is done. And I will never touch his life again. I don't believe in cruelty. I don't believe in torment for the sake of torment. And if Jeff had simply cheated on Eileen, I would have walked away. I would have let life handle him. But he did not just cheat. He used Eileen's deepest wounds, her childhood trauma, her insecurities, her disability, as weapons to silence her questions, to break her spirit, to make her believe she deserved abandonment. That is not cheating. That is emotional dismemberment. And men who do that do not get to walk away unscathed. Jeff thought he could discard a woman who had loved him unconditionally. He thought he could reinvent himself without consequence. He thought the world would bend for him the way Eileen always had. He was wrong. And while I do not lose sleep over what I did, I do sleep better. Because justice is not always a courtroom. Sometimes it is a quiet desk, a shared password, a tired law student who has had enough. And sometimes, justice is a person who refuses to let evil win. If you found this story gripping, chilling, or satisfying in all the right ways, do not forget to like this video and subscribe. Here, we give voice to people who were wronged, And we tell the stories of those who finally got justice by any means necessary. Comment below what you think about my revenge. And remember, sometimes the villain is not the one with the darkest heart. It is the one who thinks they will never get caught.